I sold my mother's house without telling my brother. 2 days later, I found a sealed envelope with his name on it, and suddenly I wasn't sure whether I had saved my mother or stolen the last thing he had left. Room, get comfortable, because this letter starts with a daughter doing what looks like the responsible thing and ends with everybody's grief wearing a different face. This story is an original dramatized scenario created for discussion. The names and details are fictionalized. Dear Velvet Knife, my name is Renee. I am 41. I have a demanding job. And for the last 7 years, I have been my mother's emergency contact, appointment scheduler, medication reminder, and apparently the only person in my family with a functioning calendar. My mother, Gloria, is 74. Since my father died, she has been living alone in the house my parents bought when I was in middle school. It is not a mansion. It is a small brick house with a leaky porch, a basement full of Christmas decorations, and a kitchen where my mother still keeps a cookie jar, even though nobody is allowed to eat the cookies because they are for company. Last winter, mom had a fall. Nothing dramatic at first, then another fall. Then the doctor started using phrases like supervision, mobility risk, and she should not be alone overnight. I asked my brother Marcus to help. Marcus is 38. He lives 2 states away, has always been charming when he shows up, and impossible when a bill arrives. After Dad died, Marcus borrowed money from Mom and never seemed to pay it back. When I asked him to come home, he said he was working on something and would call me back. That was 3 months ago. Meanwhile, Mom's care costs kept climbing. I used my savings. I took meetings from hospital hallways. I slept on her couch. And every time I brought up selling the house, Mom would cry and say, "Your father built our life here." Then Mom had a bad night. She left the stove on and tried to walk to the mailbox in the rain. I found her outside in slippers holding an envelope she had already mailed. The next week, I got power of attorney. I found a buyer. The offer was strong, the house needed repairs, and the sale would cover a safe care community near me. I signed. I did not tell Marcus until the sale was final. He called me screaming. He said I had no right. I said, "You had 3 months to act like a son instead of a visitor." He hung up. Then I found a sealed envelope in Dad's desk. It was addressed to Marcus. Inside were bank records and a copy of Mom's estate plan. The records showed Marcus had been sending Mom money every month for almost 4 years. The estate plan said that if Mom ever needed to leave the house, Marcus had a right to live there for 1 year while he got back on his feet. Dad had written a note. He would never ask you for help. Do not mistake silence for indifference. Marcus had lost his business after Dad died. He had been working nights, paying Mom back quietly and saving to move home. He says I knew he was struggling and still took the house from him. I say Mom needed care immediately, and he should have told me the truth. He says I destroyed the only plan Dad made for him. Did I do the right thing for the wrong family? Or did I become the villain because I was tired of carrying everything alone? Initial case. Now, first of all, Renee did not wake up one morning and say, "How can I make a real estate decision and emotionally injure my brother before lunch?" This woman was exhausted. Her mother was unsafe. The stove was on, the rain was raining, the slippers were slippering. There was an actual emergency. And when an older parent needs care, the bills do not pause for family group chat silence. They arrive on time wearing little business suits. So on the surface, I understand the sale. A house is not a museum if keeping it turns a parent into a prisoner of risk. Renee had legal authority. She found a strong offer. She secured care close to her. Those are not careless choices. But legal authority is not the same thing as moral authority. And this is where the letter goes completely off the rails. First escalation. Renee says Marcus never called back. Marcus says he had been sending money quietly for years. Both things can be true, and neither one is a gold star. Marcus, if you were supporting your mother, why was your sister having hospital hallway meetings alone? Why did you let her believe you were a vanished man with a pleasant voicemail greeting? Secret sacrifice is still secrecy. You do not get to build a case for being misunderstood if you refuse to give anybody the information required to understand you. But Renee, you had power of attorney, not the power to stop being curious. Your brother was estranged, not deceased. Before you sold the family home, did you search for a will? Did you ask an attorney about the estate plan? Did you send Marcus one final written notice that said, "Mom is unsafe, here are the numbers, here is the deadline, here is what I am considering"? Or did you decide that his previous failures made his voice irrelevant? That is not confusion. That is a decision wearing a cheap disguise. Room checkpoint. Room, pause right here. You have mom in danger, Renee carrying the visible labor, and Marcus carrying a private burden nobody could verify. If you were Renee, would you have sold the house to secure care? Yes or no? And if yes, what notice did Marcus deserve before the door closed for good? Because the next detail changes the temperature. Second escalation. The note from dad was not a legal document. It was a father trying to protect a son he knew might be too proud to ask for help. But the estate plan was a legal instruction, and the 1 year occupancy right had a purpose. Marcus was not just hoping to inherit a memory, he had a documented fallback plan. He had been saving to return. He had been sending money to their mother from night shifts and contract work, not because he was flourishing, but because he was trying to repair the damage from the years when he was not. And here is the sharp little splinter. Renee knew Marcus had lost his business after their father died. She interpreted his silence as laziness. Marcus interpreted her competence as judgment. Neither sibling asked the question that could have saved them. What are you not telling me because you are ashamed? Families will turn one missing sentence into a 7-year identity. He never helps. She thinks she is better than me. Then everybody starts acting in defense of the version of the other person they invented. Reversal and fair reading. I had a verdict ready. Then I read the next paragraph. Renee did not sell a vacant investment property. She sold a home attached to her father's instructions and her brother's last route back to stability. That does not make her evil. It does mean the urgency around mom's care did not erase her duty to investigate what she was about to erase. And Marcus, he has a credible pain here. He was working, paying, saving, and grieving in private, but he also created the conditions for this disaster. He did not answer calls. He did not explain the transfers. He did not say, I cannot take mom in, but I can help pay, and I have a plan. He wanted credit for a rescue nobody was allowed to see. So the cleanest version of this story is not Renee stole the house, and it is not Marcus abandoned mom. The truth is messier. Renee acted fast because Marcus made himself unknowable. Marcus hid because shame made him afraid to be known, and Gloria, the mother at the center, got turned into the evidence in a sibling trial. My verdict, Renee was right to move her mother into safe care, full stop. Safety is not negotiable, but she was wrong to close the sale without one final documented attempt to identify Marcus's stake in their father's estate instructions. The remedy is not to undo the care. You cannot put mom back in an unsafe house just to restore the symbolism of a porch. The remedy is accountability with receipts. Renee should give Marcus a complete accounting of the sale proceeds, care costs, and remaining funds. She should speak to an estate attorney about whether she violated his occupancy right and what fair compensation looks like. If money remains after mom's secured care, Marcus's lost transition support should be addressed first, not as a reward for silence, but because a plan made for him was destroyed without his knowledge. And Marcus needs to stop performing suffering as a private art form. If he wants a relationship with his sister and mother, he needs to tell the whole truth, what he owes, what he can contribute, what he needs, and when he will show up. No more mystery deposits, no more emotional smoke machine. Renee, you were not wrong to be tired, but being the responsible one can become its own kind of arrogance if it makes you believe nobody else deserves a seat at the table. Marcus, you were not wrong to be hurt, but you cannot leave people in the dark and then call them cruel for failing to see you. Room, I've said my piece. Here is the verdict question. If a sibling has vanished during a parent's crisis but later proves they were helping in secret, should they receive compensation for a family home sold without their knowledge, or did their silence forfeit that right? Put your answer below. Compensation, no compensation, or it depends. And tell me the condition. Next time, we have a woman who found out her fiance's business trip was a family reunion she was never invited to. And that RSVP came with a price tag. See you in the room.